And welcome to another episode of Experts Speak. I'm Michael DeLon, and today I'm talking with Mark MJ Jackson. And well, MJ, thank you for being my guest and squeezing me into your calendar.
It is a joy. I really am looking for this opportunity just to be a blessing to serve and engage with you and your audience. Thank you so very much for the invitation. I'm really, really grateful.
Well, you are welcome. MJ's a great guy. He's a man of faith. He's got a wife. He's got 5 kids, so we've already bonded around all of that. But he also has something that's intriguing to me because of where my family is and some thoughts in the future of being able to invest in real estate. And that's a big a big thing. And it's like a rat maze for us who aren't into it, don't know anything about it. And MJ has created this ability, I think, to find properties and invest, as you say, invest anywhere from anywhere. And I really am intrigued with that. So I want to dive into that. So let's begin this whole thing, MJ, by answering the question, how in the world did you get to doing this?
Yeah, that is obviously it's a very, very good question. Let's just put it this way. Did all the right things. Parents get a good education, go off to college, get a good job. I worked in the hospitality industry, which is a really nice way of saying I was a manager at Church's Chicken. And I lived in the New Orleans market. And Mike, after getting robbed, not once, not twice, but 3 times at gunpoint, the light bulb finally went off, and I knew I needed to be doing something different, if not just for my own safety and security, for that of my family and young children, so on and so forth. And so I went back to school, got a better education, got a better job, was still frustrated. But during that time, I was afforded the opportunity to buy my first home. And at the closing table was this 20-page document that had information about the property I was buying, pictures of that home as well as some other houses in the neighborhood. And the long and short of it, kind of find out, as I was going through it, I had just earned my accounting degree. I'm a technology geek. I love, digital equipment, stuff like that. So I turned to my wife and I said, I don't know what this is, but I can do it. And so our realtor at his closing table that was there with us said it was the appraisal report. And that is what the bank used to justify the valuation of the property for the mortgage that we were getting. And so I took immediate action and waited 3 years. Took a buyout from my corporate job, went to appraisal school, and everything that has transpired from that divine intervention moment has been the fruit of our engaging here today. I just returned from Puerto Rico, the first of this week, where we have a portfolio that we're developing. I'd probably buy and contract all the property I'm going to buy from Puerto Rico, where I live in Salt Lake City. But presently, my wife has an opportunity in the Missoula market area of Montana. So that's where I'm recording from today. But there is a person that's coming to do a notary with me over a property that I'm selling in Gary, Indiana tomorrow. So this idea of doing virtual investing has come from the background and principles of taking a valuation first approach to real estate. What I mean by that is this. For real estate investors, whether it's commercial property, we focus on affordable single-family homes and small multifamily. And regardless of where that transaction comes from, it could be a foreclosure property, it could be a government property, it could be a subject to or short sale, it could be a probate. We've got property under contract right now that we're waiting for the courts to release the asset based on the contract we put in place. All those different ways are means and ways to identify transactions. But however, at some point, you need to not just know what the value of the property is, you need to determine what is the best acquisition point. What should you pay for that asset while simultaneously knowing the after repair value? And as a real estate appraiser, that was the value I was able to add to investors before I ever did my own first transactions. I didn't start out as an investor in building a portfolio. It was serving a client base. And so there were times where I would have an investor who says, here's a property I've identified. MJ, this is what I think it's worth. I want to go do this deal. And so I would go out, look at the property, and it would be, in a lot of cases, circumstances that would say, this isn't the deal to do. So literally, whether it was functional obsolescence, maybe there was building permits for newer construction that investor would have had to compete with, or any other dynamics in terms of just the curb appeal of the asset, I would go back and tell that investor, look, these are the numbers, but I don't think you should do this deal. And I didn't know too much about investing, but I did know valuation. And so what we've been able to do, creating investor comps after selling my appraisal firm, was help investors, whether they're in Lexington, Kentucky, like we talked about within your family, in Little Rock, or if you live in Salt Lake and you want to do something in Georgia, or if you live on the California coast and you want to mitigate the risk by just doing a deal for $1 million and maybe going to a more tertiary market and doing $100,000 deals. Those are the things that we're able to guide folks so that they truly can invest anywhere from anywhere, the way that we teach it.
That is really fascinating. And so I was a realtor for about 18 months, years ago, right? Decades ago.
Okay.
And the appraisal was the one thing that really hung us up. I mean, there are lots of people who had their fingers in that puzzle, but the appraisal is the one that the banks use many times to loan money. And it really is the one that gives you a lot of information that other people don't. In fact, I've got a client of mine who's in Dayton, Ohio, #1 realtor in Dayton, Ohio.
Okay.
Before he lists a house, he gets an appraisal on that house to come up with the price. He says, because the appraiser is right most of the time. And that's a fascinating approach, MJ, to take to investing, because you look at things from a different lens than a lot of other people. Is that right?
It is true. And, Michael, one of the things that gets folks caught off guard that are just getting started in investing is this idea that they'll see a deal. Maybe it comes across on a text or an email, or they went to a real estate investing group. And so there's a flyer, or there's a dozen flyers on the table of different transactions. And so they're reading the information on there, but what's their basis of trust but verify? They're not in a position where they can do that. They're relying on the person that tells them it's a good deal, that it is one. Well, when you have the power of investor comps, where you can look up market area data in all the major areas, markets across the US, you can make your own determinations very, very quickly, whether it's over a smartphone device, or, sitting at your MacBook, or, maybe saying, hey, I've got a deal and you're working with a spouse or a family member, and they can go log into investor comps, pull up that data, and determine for themselves if in fact it is a good deal, or certainly if it's a deal that has all the right attributes, but just the numbers are off, negotiate to a point that you can acquire right, knowing that you have space to adjust your margins if in fact circumstances change around that transaction. So having and knowing for yourself that you're going to make a profit on each and every new deal that you do, that's where we help people be in a very good position when it comes to their real estate investing. So much so that I'm now in the process of launching our most recent book that I've had the opportunity to pen, and that is Ultimate Freedom Through Virtual Real Estate Investing. So I take time and walk through both aspects, those that are active investors, the ones that are finding the deals. Maybe they're bringing their own capital, maybe they're applying leverage as they're putting those deals together, but also where some real good profit is made for the passive income investor. We have so many clients that are practice professionals, high W-2 earners, and they just don't know or have a means other than the stock market to deploy their capital with a great measure of safety and security. And when you're doing one-off deals the way we teach it, you can deploy capital. I have lots of clients, heck of clients in five different continents in which we've done business that establish their US-based entities. They will be private lenders on transactions with individuals inside our VIP plus community at Investor Comps. So you take the active investor that's doing the deal and the person that's got the capital, and then you start taking the banks out of the equation, because the person that's doing the deal, they're on the ground doing a lot of work. They get to win because they're moving through transactions. And then our private lending partners that have capital they want to deploy, they do well because they're deploying capital on a secured asset as compared to, a fund or syndication or having money in the stock market that responds at other people's whims, or those funded syndications where every document you sign on there says that if it goes awry, you can lose that capital, or that you have the ability not have to have that capital as a accredited investor. So doing one-off transactions, not as your total portfolio. Even I invest in people that I know, like, and trust in a fund or syndication, and those things go relatively well. They don't always perform as high or as low that the projection come at, but they've done well. But you're also able to do your analysis based on what type of deals they're investing in. But overwhelmingly, this idea of doing virtual investing, knowing that you've got the right data to go forward with, is something that's taken a wealth of time to develop the skill sets, to be able to share it and put it in a means and ways utilizing technology, not just the technology now, but even as it grows and evolves. Things like Google Maps and the enhancements that are taking place there, where you can see literally now an image that was taken 3-4 days ago, as compared to maybe an image that was taken in 2017, where that enhancement of technology tied with the real estate teaching that we do and having the data for investor comps makes for a really strong position to know that you're going to be successful.
Yeah, that's amazing. InvestorComps.com is the website he's referring to. And I love your lineup there. Make a profit when you buy real estate. And so many times that's really when you should be making the profit, right? You're going to hold the property or whatever, but it's knowing the right price, knowing the valuation of that property based on comps, based on the eyeballs of somebody who's in there. But then also it seems like you've got this community of people.
Yeah.
So I'm not alone when I'm doing it, which is probably one of the scariest things for non-investors who are thinking about getting involved. I don't know what I don't know, MJ. Who's going to help me learn? Talk a little bit about that and how you help people.
Yeah, it's really cool because, and it's quite rewarding as well. One of the things that happens inside the community is that we all get to a point where we're really speaking the same language, because there's obviously more seasoned, not only private lenders, but also deal operators in the group. But then there's also folks that are coming to this for the first time. Now, fortunately, over time, I've actually built out a number of training courses on doing cheap government houses with HUD, or finding buyers, or even doing REO properties. So there's a way to get up to speed by watching the training and moving your skill sets forward, as compared to just, getting in there, just listening to what everybody's talking about. Because even that can be overwhelming. Absolutely. With some of the jargon that we throw around.
Yeah, it's a world of its
really
own.
Is. But it is a place where that you've seen individuals and you listen to them, the transactions that they're doing. And of course, I bring my book of business to the table as well. And I love just guiding and seeing folks do well. Now, there's still a matter of, look, don't just jump in there and work with anybody. You want to make sure that they've got a track record, that they've demonstrated their ability to turn over deals and doing very, very well. Those are the things that we still make sure: trust but verify. You're in a very good place, but still trust but verify. So it makes for a lot of fun. I really can't begin to describe the good success. I mean, people have retired from their jobs. We have individuals that have been able to fund college educations that they just didn't know how they were going to do it, by moving a few transactions, and now their children have gone on to create a newer legacy with inside their family. So many, there's a number of different examples that I've been able to provide, that I could provide, that comes from the stories and the years. I mean, Investor Comps is coming on 2 decades now. So there's, thousands of transactions and stories to share.
Okay. Who should be reaching out to you? Is it somebody like my youngest son, who's just even beginning stages of, maybe I want to do this? Seasoned corporate executives, business owners? I mean, it's something that virtually anybody could do, right?
Well, I put it this way. I mean, you're always going to have the 80-20 rule. There's folks that want to test it, and maybe they're really not sure. I use this phrasing, and it's not mine. I won't take credit for it, but it's the idea that you don't want to wait to buy real estate. You want to buy real estate and wait. That's one of the things that puts you in a situation where, one, you're taking action, and two, you're not just jumping in and out, in and out, in and out of the market. So it's an individual that literally has gotten frustrated that their retirement is coming, or that they're planning for retirement. They just can't get any traction. They keep putting money in the 401k, or they keep doing matching contributions, and they're just not seeing the real fruit of those accounts where they want to go. It's the individual that has done a couple of transactions, maybe wholesales, and they just want to do it better. They want to bring more to the bottom line. That's a good candidate to actually engage with. And there are those that we refer to as ambitious Ashley. She has a sense that real estate would work. She's never done a transaction, but really wants to find out what this will take. What's the commitment? And we're very candid about what you're going to have to do in order to really gain success in real estate, because it's not for the faint of heart. There's some definitive things and work that you're going to have to do. It's not this, get rich quick. And we talk about invest anywhere for anywhere, but it still requires you to dot the I's and cross the T's. You can't turn your back on a transaction. So we hold hands and nurture folks, regardless of where they come from, and get in. But we want to make sure that you're serious, that you know what you're getting involved in, so that you can have good success.
Yeah, and that's great. And I love how you do that, because there are some dark clouds, but we always need storms in life to bring rain, right? Causes things to grow. And you can be the rainmaker who guides us through that storm with the proper umbrella to say, here's the pathway, don't get scared, here's what's going to happen, but to let people know it is doable. And I also like the fact that you're sitting here with real estate investing. This is really it's an investor mentality that you bring into the table. And it's in a sense, I don't want to say it's another business, because it doesn't need to be a full-fledged business, but this is not necessarily just a hobby. This is for somebody who's really thinking about how do we do this. I love the legacy aspect. If you've ever thought about creating a legacy for your family, real estate can be a great one, because you can pass it on from generation to generation, teaching the skill set that they can go and do it as well themselves. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you a good example. I do some business with a practice professional that worked in his career for 30 years, had an equity event, and sold his business. And so we deploy a portion of his capital. But because of the good success we've had with him, he's actually nurtured his children to do some small balance investing, $20,000, not learning how to do real estate, but just being a private lender. And just so happened, youngest son got married, reached out, touched base with me. We got, a nice dowry from our wedding. And what we want to do is, rather than, we're good as far as a house, stuff like that, we'd actually like to take this capital and make it grow. So I'm sitting down having a conversation with them today, and it's going to be specifically about how they would look at the capital they have, what they could actually do to deploy it, start arbitraging even as the returns come in, to go and do other small balance transactions. So we come at this from a number of different ways, from a number of different people, but the core element is still be engaged in one-off assets that you can have a secured position in, as compared to just the whims and maturation that take place in other markets like the stock market, stuff like that. And real estate really gives you a really firm foundation to operate from.
I love it. I love it. MJ, we could talk for a long time, because I've got a list of questions that aren't answered yet. Where do people find out about this? What's the next step for somebody who's just intrigued and going, okay, I want a little bit more? What would they do?
Yeah, two things. One is you can find me at themarkjackson.com. That's a good place to kind of see some of the activity we take place, and schedule a call. We have an opportunity to chat, kind of see where you are, things of that nature. If you're one of those who just want to pin your ears back and go for it, then you would go to vip.investorcomps.com. We could just set up right there with the membership, join the community, And we do calls weekly, and then we're also actively doing a newsletter that I put out every week, so you can see just the latest trends that are taking place. We do a webinar once a month where I'm working on new deal strategies, so on and so forth. And then, of course, we have live events twice a year. Last week in October is Foreclosure University, and then last week in April is our Investor Summit. And being a part of the VIP community, you get to come to those completely complimentary. So an opportunity to get together, themarkjackson.com. If you're just like, look, I've heard enough, I need to get started, vip.investorcomps.com.
That's awesome. MJ, thank you. I'm gonna make sure I take those. We're gonna have those in the show notes. So if you're running your business, running the dog, running an Ironman like MJ does, and listening to this as you're running, don't worry. Just come back to the show notes. You've got the links. You can connect with MJ, themarkjackson.com. And we're going to have all of that in the show notes. This has been an intriguing concept. I love how you've put this thing together. And I know it's going to bring a lot of benefit. I'm going to probably share it with my son to go, here's an idea, because it's bringing genuine, heartfelt help to people who would love to get into real estate but aren't really sure how, and to make sure that they're set up best to, well, as you would say, make you profit when you buy the property. So I love that. MJ, thank you so much for being my guest today.
It is absolutely my joy.